Lenny.
Hi, Nancy.
Welcome to episode 78 of the Front Porch Book Club.
The Front Porch Book Club is a podcast that meets twice a month.
We like to dig deep into the relationship between characters and the worlds they live in.
Grab your book and iced tea and join us on the front porch.
Lenny, today we get to interview author Ileen Dunivent about her book, Stories for My Kids, Learning to Yodel and Other Life Lessons. This memoir is Ileen's first book, written at the age of 87 after her beloved husband Orville died, and that was in 2022. The book is available on Amazon, and we will also have a link to it on the episode notes of our website.
I think listeners are going to enjoy getting to know her, this lady behind all of these stories, and how she's continuing on. Still the same person.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating to talk to her. You see her as this little girl in the book, and then seeing what she's like at 90 years old and how there's still a flavor about her that is the same person.
I think the word might be indomitable.
Oh, good word.
Yeah. She is a woman who never saw a challenge that was too big.
Oh, I'll just write a book.
Yeah. She has lived life to the fullest and has just done everything I think she ever wanted to.
And she's not stopping now.
Oh, no.
She's continuing to go.
Yeah, I think listeners will be interested in her latest endeavor, Granny Pods, that she tells us all about.
And it sounds like a really good idea. I love it.
Great. Well, let's get to this interview.
Okay.
Welcome, Ileen, to our front porch.
And welcome to our back porch.
Well, we're so excited to have you on our book club here. I feel like I already know you because your book has so many colorful stories in it. Tell us, how did you decide to write this book?
Well, my love passed away after being together 73 years. And they said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "I'm going to write a book." And that's what happened. And my daughter worked for a publisher ever since she got out of high school. So I wrote it in longhand. She's the one that got it published.
Wow. And what was it about Orville dying that made you decide that you did want to write this memoir?
Can't talk about him.
Oh,
Ileen, that comes through so clearly in your book, that great love you two shared. And I think that is one of the most beautiful parts of this book, just your great love.
He never let go of my hand from the day he met me. But I'll tell you a funny story how he met me.
Okay.
My folks had a farm, and in the back of the farm was a big ditch, and I was dating a guy, Stetton Patton, and was a young girl, 14, just dating. But they had come out to my farm and was quail hunting. And Stetton went through the ditch and up and over and was long gone looking for the quail. And Orville was down in the ditch, and he put his arms out and carried me across the ditch and kissed me as I went across. I never looked at Stetton again.
that was it.
It was Orville from then on, and I was 14.
Were you surprised that he was so fresh to kiss you when the boy you were dating was not too far away?
Well, we were pretty close. When he was carrying me, it was face to face, and I was pretty nice. He stole my heart right then.
Right then. Oh.
Uh-huh. And we were together 73 years.
That's a beautiful love story. And it just comes across so beautifully in every chapter, every part of you growing up and raising this family and having all these experiences that he's right beside you. I love the fact that he would wear matching outfits with you and kind of tolerated that. He sounds like a very special person.
Yeah, we were on trip one time, and a couple was sitting across the table from us, and she said, "Why don't we dress alike?" And he said, "I don't want to be the Bobbsey twins."
Oh, that's funny.
But we'd go on conventions, and I sewed all the time, so Even when the kids went with us, their clothes all matched.
Oh, I love that. Our mom sews also. And mom used to make us matching outfits too when we were growing up. And we just thought those were wonderful.
Well, I'd take a bolt of material and throw it on the floor and take kitchen knives and lay on the pattern and cut everything 3 times. So by the time our youngest got in 6th grade, she was still wearing the same dress because it got handed down that many times. She never complained.
Well, the whole book echoes of a time that is just in the past, that it's just the way things were, that you made your own clothes for your kids and they passed them down and you made 3 out of the same fabric and the
Right.
same. It's just the way things were. You have such a wonderful sense of humor throughout this entire book. It's filled with humorous stories, but I think it's your take on the stories and how you write them. Where do you think your way of looking at the world comes from and finding humor in things that just happen?
It didn't come from my parents, but my grandma Jessie she was like Santa Claus. When she laughed, her belly shook like a bowl full of jelly. And she actually raised me. I think you got that
Yeah.
in the book, that she had a little girl 20 months older than me, and as long as Beverly and I was out of sight, she was fine. You heard about what we found in the city dump, didn't you? The condoms?
Yes. And you use them as water balloons.
Yes, a whole box full. Grandpa had built us a new playhouse, and we would go out to Grandma's hydrant that she watered the garden with and fix them on the hydrant, and land they'd get about 2 foot long.
Really?
Oh, my goodness.
One time, Grandma was entertaining Nana Catherine Malone, her neighbor, and Beverly and I was rolling our balloons on the concrete front porch, and mine rolled under them, and they were on one of those red benches, and it burst and got water all over their bottoms. And oh, Grandma was so mad. And I thought later, well, where did she think we got balloons?
That's pretty funny.
Well, you and Beverly had quite a interesting mischievousness about the two of you.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of funny stories. You didn't call her Aunt Beverly, did you?
Oh, heavens, no. No, she was just Bev. More like a sister, if anything.
Okay.
Because I was an only child for 8 years, and my grandma raised me. Mom and Dad worked downtown Denver, and Grandma lived out in Aurora, so she babysat me from the time I was almost first born. And Beverly and I just grew up together. And together we were very mischievous. Did you read about the night we went out the window?
Yes, we did.
To tear down the sign?
I love that story.
And Grandma was never the wiser. She never knew that we had slipped out.
And that was the night you found out Billy was a woman, not a man.
Yes, that was my biggest shock, because Billy wore a plaid shirt, really super tight jeans, and her horse was Patches. Billy was teaching us to yodel when we moved to Missouri. But we went in, and there was this man sitting across the table, and Billy was taking sugar cookies out of the oven and said, "I want to introduce you to my husband." Her husband had just come home from war, and she was making him some cookies. And Beverly laughed and said, "You didn't know Billy was a woman, did you?" And I said, "No." And I was so shocked, I totally forgot about us running away from old lady Roth getting us.
That's funny. I love that you tell us not only your history, but you also talk about your parents and grandparents. Were those well-known family stories, or did you do some research to find those out?
Oh, I didn't do any research. My dad had some notes about them.
So the importance of friendships is really a central theme through so many of your stories. You seem to have a gift for finding friends wherever you go. How have you done that throughout your life?
Oh, God's put them in my path. They just appear, and I love everybody. Oh, no, I don't. If I don't care for them, I don't to get acquainted with them.
Well, another thread throughout your life is your faith.
Well, my parents did not go to church when I was a little girl. And when I was little, I cried every night when I went to bed because I'd think about my mom and dad dying. And we moved to Missouri, and we had a neighbor woman called Mrs. Byram. And one day I went down to visit her, and we visited a while. And she said, "Did you know you're a sinner?" And I thought, well, yeah, because I get a spanking about every day, but how do you know it? And she said, "No, I'm not talking about that." She said, "Jesus died for your sins." Well, I'd never been to church. I didn't know what she was talking about. But we had moved to Clifton Hill, Missouri, and I went to church. And the first Sunday I went to church, I went forward and accepted the Lord, and my whole life changed. I never cried anymore because I knew where I was going to be and where my folks was going to be. And the next week, my dad wouldn't go to church because he said, all they want's your money. And the next week, after I had accepted the Lord, my dad went down the aisle and he was crying so hard he was almost crawling down the aisle.
Wow.
And that really made it even more meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
And he was definitely a changed man. My dad was not a good man before he became a Christian. Lori don't know that, but he wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Her dad, Wayne, was spoiled, so he didn't. Wayne was my baby brother. There was just the two of us. I was staying at Grandma's, and it was the 4th of July. Dad had built a new house up about a block from Grandma's house, and there was nothing in those vacant lots. And I saw him leave the driveway, and I told Beverly, I said, they went to a movie without me. So I was pouting about all day, and that night Dad came, and he said, what do you want for your birthday, a puppy or a baby brother? I said, I don't want no baby brother. I want a puppy. And he said, well, you got a baby brother. Wayne was born on the 4th of July. He was born a month early. He was due on my birthday in August. And I cried and cried, and he put the car out to watch the fireworks down at the city park. And Beverly and I was in watch, and I said, what am I going to do with a baby brother? I don't want a baby brother. But you know, he only weighed 4 pounds. I couldn't bring him home for a month, and he was so darn cute. I fell in love the minute he came home, and that was all right.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mind my baby brother. He was a doll.
Did you spoil him too?
Well, yeah, because I was always getting in trouble, getting a spanking. And one day I decided I was going to run away from home. And I thought, well, I'll fill my wagon with shoe polish, and I'll take Wayne with me, and I'll make a living polishing shoes.
Oh, that was a good idea. How did that work out for you? How far did you get?
Well, I never got very far. One night I told Mom she'd whip me, and it was toward evening, and I said, I'm going to run away. And she said, just run away. I don't care. Go. So I opened my bedroom window over my bed, and the curtains was blowing through the window. And I crawled under the bed, but I left my feet out. And all of a sudden, whack, whack, whack. Mom walked in and started whacking on my feet.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh.
I didn't get very far.
You didn't get very far. You had a plan, but...
Right. I was very hyper as a child, and my parents didn't know how to put up with me. I know Dad said in church one time, he was giving his testimony, and he said, oh, there was a day we didn't know what we were going to do with her. Now I don't know what we'd do without her.
Oh,
Oh,
that's beautiful.
Because my son's a carpenter. We built a house and built an apartment for Mom and Dad, and I took care of them the last 10 years of their life.
Mm-hmm.
I just was so glad that I had them in my home, but I had an apartment beside my house. So, I mean, in our house. So they had their privacy and we did ours, but we were really together too. And Mom got really bad, so I was able to help him take care of her. And so it worked out good.
And then you were able to care for him after she died too.
Yes. Oh, yeah. But he didn't need taken care of. I walked in one day and he had his shoehorn in his hand. He had his shoes on, and he was headed up to the donut shop to get a donut. And he had a heart attack and was laying there dead.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, oh, Dad, I wish Mom could have went like you did, because Mom laid in bed 10 months before she passed away.
oh, that's so hard.
So you call yourself a Rocky Mountain girl. Colorado is where you were born and where you lived until
Yes.
you moved to Missouri. when you were growing up and as an adult, did you get back to Colorado and see your old place?
Yeah, I did. But, when you're a kid, you envision things. And it wasn't like I had envisioned it at all. Everything was different. After I'd seen it, I thought, no, this is not home anymore.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you a bad thing Beverly and I used to do, though. We had a Bill's Creamery, and it was built just like a Dutch windmill. And I don't know whether I put that in the book or not, but Beverly and I would swipe some of the milk bottles behind and go in front and turn in the bottles and order one milkshake and two straws and drink it. And it was their milk bottles.
You did mention that in the book.
It seemed like something you would do. Well, whose idea was it to include your recipes? I'm wondering if your kids or your grandkids asked you to do that.
No, I probably did. I got some favorite recipes, and I hope you enjoy. I just got through making Lori some tapioca that we'll enjoy after a while.
Oh, that's nice.
Except I realized I don't use a recipe because I changed it totally, and all of a sudden I thought, dang, I didn't put the sugar in. So I had to redo it. So we'll see how it is. I used to have little bird boys that I took to the woods, and we would hunt birds, and I had 10 of them. They were 10 years old. Now they've all graduated from college.
You drew birds, right?
Uh-huh. We'd go out and go bird watching. Yeah.
Right.
One time I was out at this farm. There was just a bunch of vines and things growing in this fence, and I had the 10 little boys with me, and I said, now, normally wood thrush would build his nest in a place like this, and I opened it up, and there was a wood thrush's nest with the eggs in it right there on the spot. So they thought that was really something.
Oh, wow.
But the worst thing we ever had happen, I was in the backyard, and we were supposed to go out bird watching, but it was raining. So I had fixed fried chicken, mashed potatoes, and we was eating on the patio watching the robin feed her baby birds up in the tree, enjoying it totally. And a squirrel went up and ate the baby birds and crawled in the nest and tucked its tail around. And the boys were so upset they couldn't eat their meal. And somebody said, squirrels don't do that. And I said, well, this must have been a cannibalistic squirrel because he sure did.
Yeah.
But it's not very often, but we saw it or we wouldn't have believed it, but he sure did.
Wow. Well, one of the things that Lenny and I talked about is how creative you are between the cooking, the sewing, the painting, the other arts and crafts that you've learned, and just even your entrepreneurial spirit. You were the swimming pool manager. Where does all of this creativity come from?
I never swam. Never. The last night, they'd always throw the managers in. I never showed up the last night.
Good idea. You just had your hand in so many different things. And then now I think I'll be an author.
I got one book done. I'm doing this one about the little girl that travels all over the world, and it's all in watercolors. I've got it all drawn. And then the next one's going to be Cousins. CUZ is the name of it because I can go back to the 14th century and trace my family heritage. And my kids don't know that. In fact, I've got 33 great grandkids, and they hardly know each other because we don't get together that much. I'll be 90 this summer, and we're having a family reunion and getting everybody together in the park. But I want all of them in the book so that they'll know each other.
Oh, that's lovely. So you're still writing.
Well, that'll be the third book. I'm drawing the one I'm doing now. Totally. It's all watercolors. But the next one will all be pictures.
And so tell us more about the one that you're working on now. You're doing all of the illustration for the book, and the book is about a little girl and her travels.
Yeah, I'm just about through. I've got 2 more people I'm going to put in it, but I've drawn it all and done it in watercolors.
Oh, so is that a children's book then?
Uh-huh.
Right.
What's the title of the book going to be?
I'm Little Girl. She meets all these people and they tell her who they are.
So will that go to your daughter then in that state?
Yeah, she'll get it published.
Were you always a painter and a drawer growing up, or when did you start painting and drawing?
Well, I always liked to draw. My mom just tried to discourage it, but all of my nieces and nephews and everybody, they all draw. Mom would yell at me when I'd be sitting down at the pond drawing and say, either get in here and work in the garden or work in the house. I never did know an artist that amounted to a tinker's dam. I said, I wish that she knew all the artists that's in our family. Everybody draws.
And you have a lot of storytellers in your family as well, don't you?
When they're around me, they can't tell any stories because my mouth's always going.
Well, Lori's a writer.
Yes, she is. She's a good writer.
Yeah. I really appreciated in the book that you talked about you and Orville loved each other very much, but you also argued and disagreed, just like any couple. No marriage is perfect.
Oh, we totally disagreed. We were as opposite as could be. He would tell me I couldn't do something and I'd show him I could. And then he'd say, I'll be damned. And I said, you know what? I'm going to put that on your tombstone because every time I do something, you say, I'll be damned. I said, I just showed you I could do it. He said, no, I meant I didn't want you to do it. I said, I know it.
Oh, that's funny. So tell us what you mean when you wrote that Orville was the perfect husband for you. And I want to know if you think you were the perfect wife for him.
Yeah. I beat Betty Sue. That was the girl he was going with before he started going with me.
But he had eyes for you.
Pretty much. Yeah, we lived a very happy life. He was an insurance salesman and always made conventions, and we pretty well traveled all over the world. We had some wonderful, wonderful trips.
Mm-hmm.
And for a little guy that just come from Clifton Hill, he did pretty doggone good.
What was the favorite trip you ever took?
Oh, my gosh. Switzerland, probably.
Mm-hmm.
But then Prince Edward Island was pretty neat. We liked that.
Did you read Anne of Green Gables?
Yeah, that was one of my favorite books. And we were up there. We saw that.
Nice.
And saw the author where she was buried, her cemetery. It had a little wrought-iron fence around it.
Nice.
So, Ileen, you're writing these books and you're experiencing all these new things at this age in your life. Are you doing any book signings or getting any notoriety for what you're doing? Besides being on our podcast?
I've had several book signings. The gal that runs a newspaper uptown, I had a book signing up there. And then I had another one. And then there's a girl that's starting a bookstore, and she wants me to come out and do a book signing there when she gets the bookstore going.
Oh, that's got to be fun for you. Do you like doing that?
Oh, yeah, I like doing anything. I'm a people person, so I enjoy it. I said I've got 33 great grandkids. Oh, I just had a great great grandson.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, so we're really expanding.
Yeah, you have quite a legacy there.
I think Lori will beat me. She'll probably reach 100 in her family before I do.
Yeah, Lori, you got quite a little kingdom coming there.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Lori, if you don't mind, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Lori is our cousin, and she is Eileen's niece. So tell us what it was like being memorialized in this book. You appear a couple different places. These are all your family, your dad and your grandparents. What was this like for you to read this great book?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. I've heard Eileen's stories my whole life, but there were still some in the book I hadn't heard yet, so it was good for me. And just interesting the way she pulled in some of the history along with the stories, the World War II and polio and the segregation that was going on in the 60s, even the 70s.
Yeah, for sure. Anything we haven't asked that you would like to tell us about either Ileen or Lori?
I'm a house designer. I design houses and my son builds them.
Of course you do. Eileen, what is it that what you don't do. I forgot about that.
My husband did not want to move in this house. The house we had, I had built it with an apartment on it for my mom and dad. And after they passed away, put a pool table in there, and Orville played pool and enjoyed that. But he lost his eyesight so much that he couldn't play pool anymore. And I could see that that was just kind of wearing on him. And he did not want to build a new house, but I wanted to move out of that house so we wouldn't have that pool table. So my son has built us a really nice house, much, much smaller than what we had. And I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
So this is the third, fourth house you've designed that you've lived in that he built for you?
I think it's about the fifth.
Fifth one? Okay.
Yeah. And I've designed granny pods, and the mayor wants to build them here in town. And they're really super cute.
Granny pods?
Like tiny homes.
For a grandma.
cabin.
Oh, that's wonderful.
They're super neat. The mayor has looked at them and he wants to build them. And of course, my son can be the carpenter, and we're just trying to find somebody to finance them.
Well, Lori, you make sure when this little neighborhood gets developed that you send us an invite so we can come out and see the granny pods.
Yeah.
I might be able to move into one of those.
Right.
Well, the front, when you walk in, is long glass. My whole house is long glass windows. All my windows go from ceiling to floor. They're so easy to wash, but there's no dividers or anything in them. And the granny pods, when you walk in the front door, there's two glasses that go all the way down, and then there's a rock wall behind that. And behind the rock wall is the kitchen, and then the bedroom. And it's very small, but they're just darling.
I love the idea. I love that you're still dreaming up new things to do, and you're an inspiration.
Well, I've designed all the houses that I live in, and I think this one's the best, don't you, Lori?
I like it a lot.
It's much smaller
very nice.
than what I had, but my living room and kitchen is all together, and the two bedrooms are off of that. I don't know whether you heard that over a month ago I fell on the floor and laid there 24 hours.
Oh, no.
And was in the hospital, and then was in rehab for a month. And I swore if I ever got home, I'd never leave again, because there's no place like home.
Oh.
And I'm doing fine.
It gave her a new outlet for sharing her books. She had lots of nurses and people that wanted to buy her book.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
That's great.
Very nice.
Well, how can people best stay in touch with what you're up to?
She has a Facebook account and lots of friends on there. So, yeah, you can look her up. Ileen is not spelled like it is.
Ileen.
And then Dunivent, Dunivent.
Ileen Dunivent.
And you've posted some wonderful things on your Facebook page. Recently, you posted an embroidered handkerchief that you found.
No, that was a tea towel with the cat on it. I was pregnant with my second child, and I embroidered this set of tea towels. And when my mother-in-law died, she had never used those tea towels. I gave them to her for her birthday. But when she passed away, we found that she thought they were too good to use. So I gave them to my daughter that I was pregnant with at the time, and she used them every day until they was getting fragile. And she sent a picture. It was the little cat going to church on it. But I had all 7 days that I'd embroidered.
That's great.
Very sweet. Well, Ileen, it was so nice visiting with you today. Thank you for stopping by.
Well, I've got a sweet girl here that I'm thrilled to death to have with me.
Yes, she is.
I don't get to see Lori very often because she lives a very busy life.
And about an hour away, but it was a great excuse to come visit her. I love Aunt Ileen.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being our tech support, Lori.
Oh, sure.
Well, it was sure nice meeting you girls.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. And thanks for writing such a lovely book.
Well, it was my pleasure, and it kept my mind busy.
Well, Nancy, is she not a dear?
She is wonderful.
I think that she probably does have a lot of little boys following her around. and engaging and listening to all her fun stories, except for the
Mhm.
squirrel eating the bird's nest. But what a wonderful storyteller she is.
She really is. And how great that she was able to translate that zest for life so well into this book. I mean, you definitely get that reading the book, and then you meet her and you're like, yeah, this all tracks.
Same person,
Yeah.
still busy, very
Yes.
busy her whole life, getting
Mhm.
into everything.
And still very much in love with Orville. It was sweet that she just really could not talk about him too much, still too tender. That loss is deep, very deep. She loved him
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah. Very sweet lady. Wonderful life stories. Just recommend the book to anybody, really. It's just a lovely book.
Mhm. And I wonder if this will inspire other people to think about writing a memoir for their families and for other people who might be interested in hearing the perspective of someone who lived through times that are now bygone.
Yeah, I love it. I love the idea of it. I think it's wonderful. It is kind of motivating a little bit. But what really motivates me is that she keeps going.
Mhm.
It's just a new challenge. It's a new thing. She likes people. She keeps going and just creating and doing and painting, and she has lived a very full life. So for me, the inspiration is just her continually trying new things and new challenges and continuing to live life even after Orville.
Yeah. Our listeners didn't get a chance to experience the beauty of the watercolors that she's creating for her children's book, but they're just so beautiful, bright, wonderful colors, very fanciful, and there's just a certain joy in her paintings for that
Yeah.
book. I'm looking forward to that book coming out.
I am too. And I think when that does, we should put that in our newsletter and put a link to it so people can see what she's done there.
Oh, that's a great
It's
idea.
going to be a beautifully illustrated book and a beautiful story.
Mm-hmm.
So, Nancy,
Yes.
our next book for June is Hello, Beautiful. And it's a novel written by Anne Napolitano.
This is going to be a fun book. I haven't read it yet, but I do know enough about it that it's kind of a update on Little Women, a book by Louisa May Alcott that I loved reading growing up. I read the entire series of Little Women books. And so this will be really interesting to see how this author updates some of the ideas of that book and brings them into current times.
I didn't know that's what the book was about. Now I'm interested in reading this. That's very good. Okay.
I'm glad you're interested in reading it because you will
Because
be
we're
reading
doing
it.
it. I got my Kindle here somewhere. It's my next download.
Ding, ding, ding. Kindle mention. Well, everyone, thanks for listening. Our website is frontporchbookclub.com.
Our episodes come out twice a month on the first and third Wednesday of each month.
See you next time, Lenny.
See you, Nance. What?